I raise my hands open to you like a Catholic schoolgirl looking for that beam of light in the altar. Head held high with a loose jaw, waiting for words to escape like lightning shattering particles of sand. This is only the rising of a beautiful boardwalk. The palm trees are still just roots extending into the soil, and the hinges of this walkway had yet to be made. The sun still shines. And when we need some sheltering, there are leaves and flowers opening to beautiful blossoms to photosynthesize the bundles we carry on our sleeves. Lay with me, just for a moment, and bask in this. Though the moment may ignite the fire that burns within us, let us not forget that the bridge was once burned. There is still some arsonist trying to leave us drowning in the pond. Celebrate the beauty of the sunset, but do not forget that pollution has held it towards our pupils. Commemorate, because we deserve rose petals and podiums built for kings and queens that we have always been. We started from the top and we will always be here.
If you want it, you can get it. If you with it, I'ma hit it, flip it, rub it up and smack it, look back at it.
On that question of does Guilford cater to students of color, my experience, the only way they cater to students of color is if you have to go over and beyond. You can't just be the average student in the class.
I think Guilford is trying to do a better job at catering to students of color, but they haven't really been doing it, like especially like with events.
As far as the multicultural department, they try to, include a lot of diversity and do a lot of different activities and events that involve a diverse group of people. So, as far as having the multicultural education department, I think that's about as far as it goes.
I don't feel like they really cater at all. I feel like for us as black people here, we won't have too much to do. It's simple stuff that we just don't get here.
I never really be on campus, so I can't tell you.
I think we need to culture it up a bit at Guilford. It's the assumption that white culture is the only culture, so sometimes we have to force ourselves to include other cultures. But I find that at a lot of other schools, there's this great level of diversity and awareness. So I think Guilford has a very diverse community, but a lot of people aren't aware of the different cultures that are represented here at Guilford because we don't showcase it unless it's, times that it's necessary. When we have someone coming in that's looking for diversity, that's when we speak about the different cultures that are here. But it's not something that we see every day on a daily basis. I don't see my flag hung up every day, but I see it come up on a screen in the library, which that seems like a detachment from community that doesn't sit well with me.
No. No. No, there's not.
I feel like I am active. I do a lot. I'm a Bonner Scholar. I'm also a member of HUG. I am project coordinator of Project Community. So I have a lot of connections with different clubs on campus. So I would say I'm active on campus.
I am a Quaker Leadership Scholar, and I am also the founding president of the Guilford Multiracial, Multi-Ethnic Student Group here on campus.
If there is, I don't do them. I go to events or bus meetings. I just show my support. That's what I do.
I go to school, I go to work. There's certain activities, but there's not as much as there could be.
I've been involved in a lot of fundraising parties on campus. Since I work with the International Club and Community AIDS Awareness Project, I've been able to do a lot of events through them and coordinate with other organizations. Specifically, one big event that the International Club tends to do in the spring is an international festival to kind of highlight all the representations of different nations and countries that are represented here at Guilford. And that's something I'm really happy to be a part of each year.
I help with African Change, and I work with the youth. And I made a lot of change amongst the youth in the communities, such as Dudley High School and Glen Haven Multicultural Center. I work with kids there, tutor, and that's pretty much what I did.
Well, I think it depends on what student of color you're talking about. I think it depends on what. Okay, is a student CCE? Are they traditional? Are they an athlete? Like, are they in the multicultural education department? I think all those are factors for students getting voice. So I can only speak for me because I don't know any other students, but I think my voice on campus is heard to a certain extent depending on the situation. Why is that? I think it's convenient. When it's convenient for people, they will listen. And when it's a need of diversity, when they want to diversify their group or diversify their project, then my voice is heard. And so I think that's about convenience and not necessarily about really wanting to know what I feel as a student of color on campus.
To an extent.
Explain.
It depends on the situation and possibly who they approach about the situation. Because you have some staff that they don't really care for students of color. So let's say if I had a problem, I was supposed to go to somebody other than Jada about it, then it probably wouldn't get solved because they just don't care that much. So do we have a voice on campus? Not unless you're talking to somebody in the MED.
No, because I feel like the Caucasian kids was like, oh, we want to start this and that club. And the black kids was like, oh, I want to start this club. It'd probably be easier for the Caucasian kids. I haven't tried it myself. So, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I feel like it would be harder for us. Like, we would have to go through a lot more to get what we want than them. You know what I mean? So, no.
As loud as other voices on campus. We have programs like the bus and African Change and everything, but we don't get as much attention on campus. Nobody really hears us.
I think that there are spaces that accommodate to students of color. So we have the multicultural education department and principal problem solvers in all these other areas that as a person of color you're able to voice your opinion. But I feel like in a lot of ways Guilford feels as though they have to try and not step on our toes. I think that the institution is genuinely afraid of a lot of the students of color speaking up, and when you do speak up, sometimes I've heard people tell me personally, oh, it doesn't have anything to do with race, that's not what it's about. It does have something to do with race. I can't change the color of my skin, and a lot of the issues that I'm addressing are in connection to who I am as a black woman here on campus.
I think we're making a voice on campus. I think we're in the process of attempting to be heard. They can have focus groups, they can talk to Jada or Jorge, they can make petitions about whatever they don't like, they can send emails, write in the Guilfordian, write in the Buzz. I don't know, I think there's a lot of stuff. It's just you have to find students who care enough to do the work and then follow up with it and make sure that everything is accomplished.
Students can come together and have a better sense of a community and unity amongst the students of color. We need to come together, and then together we have a bigger voice.
I'm radical and I'm militant, and I don't mind telling people what I think and calling people out.
What can students do to feel that they have a voice?
I think definitely going to Senate meetings. There's not a large presence and a lot of people of color at Senate meetings, and just having community forums. We can kind of, take over a space. Let's take over the cafeteria one day and have those conversations. Take over, Founders Hall and have those conversations. Take over a lounge, within one of these dorm halls and have those conversations. Have those conversations when people don't want to have it, because the issue is that a lot of people tend to stay silent, but we need to find ways for people to voice their opinions.
I think it's not being scared. They could branch out, because I feel like students of color mostly, they depend on people in the MED so much that they don't really use the other resources that they have outside of the MED. So branching out.
Which ones? Particularly the really big reception, where they were thanking all the alumni who were faculty here. That was nice to see.
I attended the alumni retreat, and the other one I don't quite know the name, but it was the one that Pastor Santi spoke at. So those are the only two I went to.
I attended many of the Journeys in Blackness events this year, and I got a chance to do a poem at a few of them, and that's something I'm really happy to be a part of. A lot of the history about Guilford, I actually didn't know, who was the first black professor to get tenure, who was the first black professor in the art department, and all these other spaces on campus. These are some of the people that I've received the opportunity to meet and be in conversation with, and I didn't know that history was standing right in front of me.
I attended almost all of the Journeys of Blackness events this year. It was nice to hear how it was and how it is now and like the progress that has been made, but at the same time it was a little frustrating that there hasn't been as much progress as there should be.
I feel like not much has changed from the people I've heard their stories from, because I know one of the things that Santis talked about was how he spoke a lot about how the number decreased in the class that he came in, and that's something that's very present with our class that we actually do talk about a lot. He spoke about the athletic situation. That's still pretty obvious that most African American male do only come to the school unless it's with athletics. And it was this other lady, I don't remember her name, but she spoke a lot about how being an RA made her very out there on campus because she took advantage of that and used Guilford money in ways that we haven't utilized it. So in some ways it was the same, but in some ways it was different, if that makes sense.
Listen to a few people. Just particularly the interactions that they had with white students. It's still interesting because this isn't so long ago, and I think in a lot of ways we have come far, but it's still interesting to see how traumatic a lot of that history was. But also listening to some people, it's also interesting to see the complacency in some people. Sometimes people may have identified a lot of struggles that took place, but sometimes it was hard to deal with, and I even find myself having a hard time dealing with some of those racial issues today because you feel like you wake up every morning and it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Let your voice be heard.
Speak up more. I don't think that I speak up enough. I think that I have a lot of these feelings, and in class a professor might say something, I don't call them out because I feel like maybe they'll shut me down, but sometimes I can speak out, and be in opposition to what a student is saying. So it should be like that all across the board. If I feel like someone is saying something wrong, I should always call them out, and I don't think that I do that enough. And hearing alumni, it seemed like that's all they were doing, and they made a commitment to doing that. So I would really like to make a greater commitment to calling people out.
Perseverance. Just never settling for what is accepted, to always strive for more and work towards more.
If you want it, you can get it. If you with it, I'ma hit it, flip it.